Hello, good evening and welcome. You're listening to Open Your Mind Radio and you have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 23rd of February 2014. Welcome back, Steve. You were sorely missed last week.
Thanks very much, and I'm very sorry as well.
How was Barbados, by the way?
Oh, it was too hot. As you can see by my lovely tan and the sunburn.
Yeah. You went to Barbados via Cork, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, via Cork, and then we got stuck in Cork, so we decided to stay there. Yeah. No, it was wet. It was, I tell you, wet is not a word. The global warming, if anyone says global warming or geoengineering doesn't exist or it's all conspiracy, go down to Cork, because I tell you, the amount of flooding we seen down there was unbelievable.
Did you have paddles?
Yeah, but I brought the paddles, but didn't have a canoe.
I think you should have went down in a boat rather than a car. Would have been more beneficial.
I was up that famous creek, but yeah, without a canoe. Had the paddle.
Well, welcome back anyway.
Thank you.
Before we carry on, do you want to tell us what the communication channels are?
I'll leave that up to Mary. She does it so much better.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thank you, Mary. 0469271212 if you want to ring in with a question for any of our guests this evening. We're also going to be monitoring our own chat room on OYMradio.com. If you want to navigate to said stream, that's OYMradio.com, you will see the live chat button on the left-hand side. You can click on there. We're also streaming on People's Internet Radio, and we're going to be monitoring the chat room there as well. So big hi to everyone who is tuned in this evening.
Great stuff. Cheers, Steve. Okay, the guests on tonight, we have Tony Z, we have Richard De Cumber and Clive De Carle. Now they, as far as I know, are appearing on the New Humanity Movement event in seminar in the UK in April. And obviously we're going to be getting Tony on, Richard and Clive on to tell us all about it and to tell us what they're going to be talking about, when it's on, getting all the details, because I know there's a few people going over to that or planning to go over there, so we'll just get more information from everybody involved there. But as usual, before we do that, just a couple of things that we want to touch base on. Now, the good news is we're still here, Steve. The world hasn't ended.
Damn.
Well, apparently the Viking apocalypse, end of the world, predicted to happen yesterday. It was predicted to happen yesterday, the Viking apocalypse. It says, the end of the world, if Norse mythology is to be believed, which predicts the earth was to split open and release the inhabitants of the underworld yesterday. According to Norse legend, at least, a series of events leading up to the Ragnarok will accumulate in an epic battle where Norse gods Thor, Loki, Odin, Freyr, Hermor will fight. Odin will be killed by Fenrir, and the other creator gods will fall. The earth will fall into the sea, and life as we know it will cease to be. Or maybe not. Because this is Sunday.
Yes.
Now,
life, Jim, but not as we know it.
Now, we are very open-minded at OYM, but this is Sunday.
It is.
And so we're a day late for the end of the world to happen, so...
We are. And it didn't happen.
And it did, yeah.
Or did it?
Or did it?
Did it happen?
Did the world... I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we're in Ireland. We'd be the last to know.
It probably would be, yeah. Probably would be. If anybody knows about the earth splitting in two and you see any of them gods and the inhabitants of the underworld coming up, can you please call us on 04697 1212 and let us know if you see them.
Well, come here. Sinkholes.
Yeah, well,
sinkholes.
Same to you.
There is a lot of sinkholes happening. You know, this phenomenon where the ground just kind of opens in a big hole. That's gaining kind of a lot of momentum. So, I mean, maybe that's just...
That could be the old, Earth. Yeah, it could be, because there's been a lot of sinkholes opening up everywhere,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. So, if you have any information, let us know about that. Steve?
Yes, our new OYM T-shirts have arrived, and I have to say, they look absolutely fantastic. They're now on the site. If you're logging onto the site there, or if you're on our site, just look on the left-hand side. You will see the OYM shop. It's not a real shop, it's a virtual shop. If you just go in there, you will see a lovely picture of the T-shirt with the logo emblazoned across it there, and it's very, very colourful. And we want to give a big shout out there, a big thank you to Dave at Smart Custom Wear in Killarney, that is in County Kerry, because we believe in supporting Irish business. We could have got it done probably cheaper from China, but
we could have done.
No, we didn't. We're supporting the local business. The website for that particular shop is smartcustomwear.ie. And if you do go over and you buy something, just tell Dave that we sent you. Anyway, there's no job too big or too small for them, and it's an Irish company, again, that we're trying to keep the work and the jobs in Ireland. So thanks, Dave.
Brilliant stuff. Excellent job in the T-shirts, and they are now available. And again, a big thank you for people who donate. But the T-shirts are another way to help us, but also you'll get something back as well. So a big thank you for the people who donated to, give us the funds to do that in the first place. That's a big thank you to them.
And if you don't want a T-shirt, remember we also have the 5 for 5 bumper stickers. I don't know why I keep calling them bumper stickers, because they're not bumper stickers. They are actually... the phone's ringing already.
Okay. Oh. Hello, caller. Good evening. You're on OYM. How can we help you?
Steve,
It's Alan and Steve, yeah.
sorry, the world did end, but because we're in a higher dimension, it didn't affect us.
Oh, well, that's one way of looking at it, yeah.
Happy days.
This is Patrick, by the way.
Yeah, no, Patrick, yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it was very good, and I just couldn't wait to ring in with that comment.
Yeah. Well, no, that's fine. We I suppose we're in a 4D world, so the 3D world has just gone by the wayside.
Yeah, we're in the better place, Alan.
Brilliant. Well, I hope it gets better. I hope it keeps going. That's brilliant, Patrick. That's great. Thanks for the call.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just, again, you always give me a good laugh.
That's okay.
I just couldn't wait. I had to ring in.
That's no problem,
Fair
Patrick.
play,
Thanks for ringing in. Fair play. Take care of yourself.
Leave it, Alan. Ta-ra, lads.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, that was Patrick there. Patrick is a long time. We know Patrick's a long time listener of the show. When he does ring in from time to time, sometimes he comes on air, sometimes he doesn't come on air. But no, fair play, Patrick. So we're actually the world did end. Okay, that's good to know.
But we're in 4D now. We must be in 4D. The 3D world finished.
Okay, so that means I can think of a sandwich and I'll just visualise it and it's going to appear in front of me now.
Don't push it.
It's not working.
Don't push
it's
it.
not working. You can't get the staff.
No.
Yes, whoever, Chris, you're right. Windscreen stickers. They are windscreen stickers. Bumper stickers kind of rolls off the tongue, but they're windscreen stickers. Stickers for your window screen in your car or your house, or Anyway, it's 5 for a fiver. And you can stick one in your car, one in your house, and if you're passing by, I don't know, if you're in the shop or something and you want to let people know about OYM, you can stick them on the window in the shop as well.
And what we'd love you to do is, if you do have a sticker on your car, will you take a photo and send it in to us? Or if you have a sticker somewhere, just take a photo and send it in, and we'll put it on our photo gallery.
No rude ones, though.
No rude ones, but,
Don't stick it across your backside.
If you have a T-shirt... If you buy a T-shirt and you're wearing it, just give us a photo of the T-shirt. You're wearing the T-shirt, and if you're in any location, it'd be great because we have a gallery that we put them into, and you can have a look at the gallery. So if you can do that, that'd be great. Okay,
and we're going to move on. We have a public seminar coming up. It's a public banking forum for Ireland, and that seminar is going to be the 27th of Feb at 2 p.m. in the Green Isle Hotel in Dublin. That's the capital. Cork is not the capital, I had to say that. All Cork people think it is. And it's Herr Dr. Keidel, German Spark Assen Bank, I knew I'd get that wrong, and Christopher Simpson, and that's Civitas. I don't know why you keep giving me the hard ones to read out with the big foreign words. Anyway, join us and make a public banking a reality in Ireland. Sign up for the seminar on Facebook or at republicirelandbank.com. That's republicirelandbank.com. And again, if you have a few minutes to spare or you're in the vicinity, that's the 27th of Feb, 2 p.m. Green Isle Hotel in Dublin. It'll probably be raining on the day, so bring a brolly.
We will probably get them people on the show. Sometime we'll do an interview with them and get them on and find out what they're up to. But at the moment, we've just so much to do tonight anyway, so we can't really spare the time. But we will try and get them on. But try and make the public meeting if you can there. Now, the other thing that seems to be going around as well is the deliberate flooding of the Somerset levels. And one of our regular, I won't say listeners, well, maybe he is listening, but he does send us links all the time, which is great, Seamus. And Seamus sent us over a link from Red Ice Creations, and they were talking about the deliberate flooding of the actual Somerset levels and everything else. And it was, we're going to send it out into the registered users in our web links as usual. Quite good information and relevant information as to how some people perceive it as it was done purposely, and maybe using HARP technology and geoengineering to do it, because the land would be bought up for pennies on the pound, because it would be probably no good from a farmland point of view, and then the fracking companies can come in and use it to start fracking. That's the general consensus some people think about. So we don't know. We'll see how we get on. And the last thing on the general list is a lady called Nancy Leader, who runs a website called zetatalk.com, and she seems to have her finger on the pulse on certain information. And she says here that suddenly banks are tightening the rules and the reins, all in the weeks ahead of the anticipated announcement, admitting that Nirabu exists and is nearby. Is there a relationship? We predicted that banks would limit their hours, limit their withdrawals, and even be closed temporarily if a panic ensued. The likely time when such steps would be viewed as necessary would be during the announcement and shortly thereafter. One of the first reactions in the populace taken by surprise by the announcement would be to stock up on food, gasoline and cash. The banks are anticipating a run on their ready cash, which frankly is not in hand. Now, I think what we have seen various banks tightening up, not giving out money, not allowing people to withdraw money, bankers committing suicide, and various other things going on, bank systems going down, not being available. So I would just keep a kind of close rein on things like that. Now, probably like myself and Steve, we don't have any money, so it won't matter to us really. But at the end of the day, if you have any savings in there, just be careful. Maybe take them out and put them under the mattress, or put them somewhere where you can get at them, because the bank rules say that if you put money in, they can do what they like with that money, that it becomes their money. So just be aware of that on the old terms and conditions of the bank. But anyway, how's your week, Steve?
Yeah, just on what you're saying there in relation to the banks, I did hear before, I watched a documentary, and it did say that when you go up to your bank and you put money into what you deem as your account, that what you're actually doing is you're lending money to the bank. So what Alan's saying is correct, that once, you could have €100 or £100 or dollars in your account, and that's fine, that's reflected on your statement. But once it's in there, then it's basically, in the terms and conditions, it's you lending it to the bank, and then they can do whatever they want with it, basically. So it's one to watch over. But I think a lot of people in Ireland anyway will not have to worry about that, because, as Alan said, we don't have any bloody money. So
yeah.
Anyway, how was my week? Well, it was more like my 2 weeks, really, wasn't it? But I know we're tight for time, so I'm just going to say, people are starting to wake up. There's a lot of people that I am friends with on my own personal Facebook page, and we all know what Facebook is and what it's for, and where all the information is going, and what it's creating a profile on people. But I keep chipping away, and I don't really use it for personal stuff at all. I only put up links to educate people as to what's going on in the world, and slowly but surely it is beginning to pay off, because some of my Facebook friends and buddies, they're instead of just ignoring my posts now or writing conspiracy theory, some of them have actually contacted me and asked me to send more information, and I've done that. So it's nice to see that I won't even say the hard work is paying off, but the links that I pop up there from time to time, it is beginning to wake people up. So that's good. I know Alan kind of does the same thing as well. We're not kind of big supporters of the sinister motives of Facebook, but we do kind of view it as a great little tool for educating people.
Well, apparently they're calling it Fadebook now, because people are beginning to leave it.
Are they?
Oh,
okay.
And obviously Facebook bought WhatsApp, which has 450 million users, which now people are going to be leaving in droves because they know Facebook on it.
Oh dear. Well, that's a bit of bad news. Mr. What's his name? Mark Zuckerberg, he won't be too happy about that. But then again, he's made his money. Well, that's unfortunate. There was an alternative out there to Facebook, and I signed up to it. And again, I can't even remember the bloody name of it, because it was around for a couple of months, and then whenever you try to go into it now, you get nothing. And again, I think the name will come to me, but I know I was promoting it here last year. But it seems to have gone by the wayside. I don't know, maybe if it was hacked or shut down by Facebook. But there's loads of information going around the net, and anyone who's on Facebook will probably see all these links and all. Like, the stuff going on in America. I'm only going to say one thing. I found it hard to believe that a jogger in the US was arrested, and it took four police officers to subdue the woman. She's just out jogging. She didn't have any identification on her, seemingly, and she was accused of jaywalking. And seemingly that's an offence over there to jaywalk. And I always have a mental image in my head of someone who's jaywalking is that opening scene in Saturday Night Fever where John Travolta is walking along, kind of strutting. I think maybe that's jaywalking, I don't know. Or maybe she crossed the road where she shouldn't have crossed the road, but she was arrested anyway. It took 4 police officers to arrest her. I just think, that's disgraceful.
She crossed the road when the man wasn't green.
Well, the man...
That's jaywalking.
Look, at the end of the day, you cross the road when you can.
Well, no, not in America, apparently.
No, well, not in America. Anyway, look, there's loads of other things I've seen and I've been looking at during the week. I'm not going to go into them now because I know we are tight for time. So I'll just say, how's your week?
Well, okay, well, again, because we have to get our guests in because we are tight for time, just I'll watch the Ireland's housing crisis video, which is quite disturbing. And just very quickly, the Ant and Dec distraction show is back on Saturday nights. Don't worry about what's going on in the world in Venezuela and the Ukraine and everything else that's going on. Don't worry about any of that. Just go and watch Ant and Dec and, you'd be laughing, So, again, the distraction techniques in TV, hypnotising people and everything else. But there you go. Okay, well, listen, that's just my week, just a couple of things there. Okay, without further ado, we're going to bring our guests on because I know Richard is tight for time. And Tony's going to be being the man in the chair, I think. Clive hopefully Clive's back in. If not, he'll be in a few minutes. But we'll bring all our guests in. So good evening, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Hi, guys.
Hi, Steve. How's it going?
Okay, let's see who we have. So we have Tony, we have Richard. Clive, are you there?
I'm here as well.
Oh, great stuff. Okay, brilliant stuff. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you doing? Thanks for coming on to OYM. Now, before we go around, the best thing to do, I think, would be Tony, I'm going to pass it over to you because we have Richard and Clive on and yourself to talk about the event that's going to be happening in April. And you have so many speakers over 3 days, I think. So do you want to tell us more about the event and what's going on, and then introduce Richard and introduce Clive and tell us what they'll be doing?
Absolutely. Thank you, Al. The event is going pretty wild, actually. There's massive amounts of interest coming in. What is the event? Well, it's an event on consciousness, the new humanity movement, leadership, quantum physics, time travel, disclosure, Roswell, many, many other things, Egyptology, energy healing, personal development, soul, evolution, light body, meditation, loads and loads of things. And, we've got some of the best people in the world coming round for this particular event.
Excellent. And you want to tell us, because Richard has never been on the show before, and Clive obviously has been, but you want to tell us a bit about Richard, or Richard, if you want to come in and tell us about yourself and what you'll be doing, that would be fine.
Yeah. What I'll be doing, can you hear me okay? I think there's a bit of feedback here.
Yeah, well, you're okay this end. We're not getting any feedback
great.
here. You're fine.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do kind of presentation for an hour and a half on, it's called Conscious Health Solutions for a Toxic World. And I'm going to run through some of the major issues that, of course, most of your listeners and most people who are actually awake will know about anyhow. We're talking things like destruction of the food supply, destruction of the water supply, vaccinations, GM-modified food, radiation, Wi-Fi. I mean, Wi-Fi, for example, is one of the biggest problems we have right now. And it's, in other words, all these things, I'll be just briefly touching on them and putting into people's minds that some of the data and some of the real information about, this, exactly how bad this situation really is. But then hopefully turning it around and making it very positive and hedonistic. And in other words, we do actually have solutions for a lot of these things. And I think most of them aren't known about. They're certainly not talked about in the mainstream media for obvious reasons. And it's really a kind of a thing that I've been on, a trip to look at these things and learn more about them and actually try them in the real world, talk to people who've used them, make sure they work. In other words, not just hearsay. So I'll be putting forward a presentation of things that people can look at, go away with, and then get in touch and actually start getting these things and using them themselves. And hopefully I'll be running a workshop where we'll actually go into much more detail with these things. And we will be concentrating on things like heating blanket technology from the Russian space program and Scanner, for example, because these are so powerful that if you imagine having your own energetic toolbox, your first aid kit, that you can literally carry around in a bum bag or in the dashboard of your car or in your handbag or whatever, these things can change consciousness on their own. And certainly, if they're used to deal with all the aforementioned issues that we have, the chances are that the changes in the way the body works and how people understand and comprehend things is pretty radical. So I'm quite excited about it, and it's going to be a great time to get people along to the workshop afterwards, hopefully, and say, look, okay then, get in the healing blanket. Let's treat you with the scanner technology. Let's give you some monatomic gold. Let's talk about Ormus and how that might help with your health, for example.
That sounds fantastic. Will you be talking about the pain genie?
Yeah, I mean, we'll certainly start off with the pain genie, and what I hope to do is to have 3 or 4 helpers. I don't know how big the audience is there. I think, Tony, am I right? Is it 200?
It's actually been increased, so it could even be bigger than that at the moment. We're having to expand it and get another hall just to get enough, to get the sheer amount of people in. So it may have changed and gone up, but yeah, over 200, I would have thought.
Yeah, so I mean, you get 200 people. You probably ask them. I'm going to ask them the question: who here right now has pain? And you're probably going to find at least 30 hands go up. And when people think about it, probably 100 go up. And then if you ask the question, who's had pain within the last week or who knows someone in pain, you're going to get 100% response. And the biggest issue we have is pain is like fear. And if people are in pain, they can't be conscious. It's very hard to be conscious when your back's hurting you or your teeth are hurting you or, you've got some painful emotional upset. So if we can deal with pain as the initial in, if you like, to get people's consciousness turned on and tuned in, then they suddenly realize that, say, the Pain Genie technology is far more than pain. It's tip of the iceberg, although it's just that in Europe we can only say it's for pain resolution. We can't say anything else. So, we do, but we're just careful about it. So, yeah, the Pain Genie will be a kind of, we'll float it off, and we'll be getting people from the audience on stage, and I'll be treating them, and some of my friends will be treating them to hopefully show people in real time, in a few minutes, what can be done to change a situation that they may have had for years. And certainly we will be treating them maybe just through the arm or the hand. So even if they've got a problem in the foot or the back, we'll just show you how powerful this is by treating a remote area of the body and changing the entire body through that kind of technology.
Excellent. Well, I just came across the Pain Genie, and I think I was watching a video about it, and I found it fascinating. But the thing is, Richard, is that people who use these methods or alternative methods, will they have to change their lifestyles? Because, they always say for people who are suffering, say, from cancer, and they are cured in whatever way that is, whether it's through the pharmaceutical industry or whether it's natural means, the thing is that they have to change their lifestyle, because if they don't, it just means it's going to come back. Is that the same for your methods?
Well, I think, what you're describing there is actually about consciousness. So, I'll give you an example. Somebody buys a Pain Genie from the internet. Their friend's got pain or the mother's got pain. They may have bad, say, lower back pain. They treat them as we show on the DVD and the members area online, and they get them out of pain. And then later on, they get in touch and say, well, we've done 5 or 6 treatments. We feel better. We're sleeping better. Suddenly, we seem to be making better choices. Life seems to have changed. Do you think the Pain Genie had anything to do with it? And I say, well, what do you think? Because, the neuropeptides that are released as a mechanism of the body's own natural innate healing abilities are massively generated when you apply the Pain Genie. So they don't care whether looking at neurons, which is, to do with consciousness. In other words, what choices you make will affect your life. And if you make better choices, guess what? Your environment's going to change. You have different thoughts. You have positive thoughts as opposed to negative thoughts. And, of course, it does change. So it really will be a situation that the only person that can cure anybody is the person themselves. So you give them the right energy and information, then they suddenly make better choices. They're out of pain. They feel better. They sleep better. And there's a remarkable turnaround usually. And as far as depression goes, I have not seen anything that comes close to changing things between a minute and a few hours. It's quite remarkable.
It's brilliant that these methods are coming out and more people are beginning to use them, and they're being exposed, and people are buying them and using them and are finding results, which is excellent. I'll just say to our listeners, if they have any questions or they want to phone in and talk to Richard and Clive and Tony, give us a ring on 046 927 1212. That's 046 927 1212. I believe Steve has a question. Steve, you have a question for Richard?
Yeah, I've never heard of the Pain Genie, and I've just typed it into a search engine there, and I haven't clicked on the link, but I do see that it's paingenie.net. There's something to do with Ireland as well, so I'm going to check that out. That would be very, very beneficial for me and my shoulder.
Yeah.
My long-term condition. Anyway, Richard, we do have a question from Thigh81, and the question is, can I ask a question? Yes, you can. Why would they use Ormus, O-R-M-U-S, and what would you use it for?
Okay, well, just one thing. The website, by the way, the new website, paingenie.com, .net is the old website, so if anyone wants to look at the paingenie.com website. As far as Ormus goes, and monatomic gold or silver, it's fairly plain now that the ancient Egyptians, the priest class, were using this type of substance to further their consciousness and to change the health, because obviously consciousness, if you're high consciousness, means you have to have your physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional in balance. You can't be 99% spiritual, 1% physical, mental, and emotional. You just be out of balance. So these substances, as people like Sir Lawrence Gardner talked about in his book Secrets of the Lost Ark, and in his presentations, were being used widely in those times, and we know that high-level Freemasons use them, for example, now. We know that they're used by, if you like, the dark and the light forces for their own purposes. They certainly, from what I've looked at, the remarkable effect is initially on things like the blood. So if you get a dark field microscope and you look at somebody with, well, I've actually filmed this on a friend's system, and you look at, say, the blood being clumped together, in other words, sticky blood, that type of thing, which could lead to a whole range of different health conditions, and you start giving Ormus, or especially monatomic gold, which is, of course, orbitally rearranged monatomic element of gold, then the remarkable and fairly quick results, because the blood changes. And of course, you think about it, you're passing your blood around your body to feed nutrients and energy and phonons into your body organs. So it's a remarkable healing compound, and one that's beginning through people like Hudson, David Hudson. Was it David Hudson, Tony? I think it was David Hudson, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Who did it? He's got a 3.5, 4-hour presentation on YouTube, which will blow most people's minds when they see what he's actually been saying. I've been following this up for some time, and I know Clive has too. So I have a variety now of different type of Ormus substances that can be ingested, and I will be taking it forward soon with my own dark field microscope and running a kind of range of tests on people before and after of taking the substance. But, it's one thing in your energetic toolbox, and if you apply that at the same time as things like the Pain Genie to remove blockages, accelerate healing, you can imagine the type of synergistic response you're going to get. It's going to be, 1 + 1 is not 2, it's 11. So certainly, as far as the question goes, what do you film Ormus for? Health generally, and also your spiritual advancement, because it's going to reconnect your pineal gland. It's going to flush out fluoride and things from the thymus, the thyroid and the pineal gland. It's going to push things on fairly rapidly.
Yeah, well. Thanks for that information. I just want to continue on with that. I mean, I actually watched the documentary about, it must be two maybe 3 years ago. I found it on the internet. I don't know how I came across it, but I watched it, and it was actually Lawrence Gardner, and he was talking about the monatomic gold. And I think it must have been about 2 hours long. And I have to admit, a lot of what he said made sense. A lot of it went right over my head. I didn't get it, but he put it out there, and I felt that it was me. I needed to go and do more research on it. But I just noticed that he died. He's actually died, and I just seen somebody wrote on something to do with his obituary that he died after a long illness which he fought bravely. Now I haven't clicked on the link. I don't know if it was cancer. But I mean, he was an advocate for the monatomic gold. I mean, yeah. You see, people may look at what he was promoting, and then they might look at his death and kind of go, I wonder, was that linked? What do you reckon to that?
Well, I mean, I thought the same thing when I heard that he died, and I can't remember whether it was cancer or not, but I thought the same thing, because I thought, well, if this guy's been heavily involved in monatomics and almost elements and etc., then he should be okay. I mean, he should be taking the stuff and he should be okay. But it's all about environment. So if you take a bucket load of monatomic elements, if you live under power lines, guess what? Your environment's going to keep you stuck in that dis-ease situation. So you might firefight it. The other suggestion that I have heard put out there was he did, I think, upset a few people by coming out and talking about this stuff as blatantly as he did, and thank you, Lawrence, for doing it. And there may be some suggestions that he was a bit like one of these so many bankers who just at the age of 35 or whatever just feel like jumping off a building for no good reason apart from the fact that they're a banker. So I think there's more to that than meets the eye. And I certainly haven't researched his death in detail, but I agree. It is interesting.
Yeah, I can't actually remember the name of the documentary, but I think it was Secrets of the Ark or the Secrets of the Covenant. I can't remember, but it was brilliant. It was actually very, very well presented and put together. I mean, the guy had the gift of the gab, as we say here in Ireland. I mean, he could talk, and it's definitely worth watching. Anyone, I'm thinking. It's probably a good starting point for anyone who's interested in this. It's definitely kind of spurred me to do a little bit more research. Now, I've never actually gone down the road of the monatomic gold. I've tried other stuff as well, but I haven't actually gone down that road. But he sadly missed anyway. Alan?
Yeah, I think if people are interested to look at things, if they get into YouTube and I think they put Sir Lawrence Gardner, Laurence Gardner, and something like afterwards, Secrets of the Lost Ark, they'll get that interview. I think it's about 1 hour and 10 or something. And then if they look at David Hudson and get his interview, I think it's about 3 hours 50 or something. Within that 5 hour period, I think people are going to have a big shift about their understanding about what is really possible. And again, this is hidden knowledge. This is knowledge that, I mean, I'll give you a quick aside. A friend of mine who I met recently, and I've known him for quite some time, he came across this particular way of making monatomic gold. He was given information by a high-level Freemason.
Wow. Okay.
And this guy, his blood was absolutely perfect. So, it's just hidden. It's hidden knowledge. We haven't been told it. And I think the more people get involved in it, it's much harder for the authorities to deflect people and stop them actually getting interested in stuff that really can be life-changing.
Where do you think the world's going at the moment, the way things are going, Richard? How do you see it going?
Well, I think it's getting worse and better at the same time. And I think what's happening is it's polarizing. So people on both sides of the cleft, if you like, are looking into the abyss now and going, holy shit, this is getting quite something. At least the people are awake. Still the vast majority are in fear, and they don't know really what's going on, but they'd rather not know. They just want to kind of go home, put the soap on, see if they can pay the mortgage that month, and trying to find some way of turning down their nervous system so they don't have this information. But I think as it progresses and it gets better and worse even more or even faster, those people will be literally pulled screaming from their couch to look at a situation that will be forced and thrust upon them. So I'm actually very, very optimistic. And I think the biggest thing that I find is missing from people is celebration. And if people can celebrate a bit more, and they can turn any situation into a good situation, they just have to go, hey, I'm going to cancel those negative thoughts. I'm going to look at a good point, and I'm going to actually go out, find the information, learn things myself, and talk to people. Because without that, we're not going to make it. People have to, actually do something rather than just keep ignoring the fact that there's a problem. But I think we're going to get through it. I don't think it's going to be smooth. I think we're in for a ride, but it's going to be worth doing because we need this change more than anything.
I think so. I mean, the light bulb has to come on with people, and I think what's happening now, maybe it's a bad thing, but a good thing in disguise, because people have to now address what's going on because they're in situations, either financially or with their health, that they have to say, right, okay, there must be an alternative. There must be something else than what we've been fed through the mainstream media. And maybe that, over here, we had a DJ over here in Ireland called Jerry Ryan. And Jerry Ryan used to say, Ireland is a country full of Nimbys, which is not in my backyard. And as long as it doesn't affect me, then I'm not getting involved. But unfortunately, as we've always said on OYM, that everybody's in the line of dominoes. You might be further down the line, but it's going to fall. And if you don't get your act together and start learning about what's going on and then trying to deal with it, then you will be overwhelmed when it happens. So start getting out there, start educating yourself. And a lot of people over here in Ireland, and maybe in the UK as well, have started to learn the likes of the law and then started to look at alternative therapies and to see what else is out there rather than taking the mainstream junk that's being pushed down their throat by the mainstream media.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest point as far as I see it. Is control of the media. In fact, when we've had all these protests against, the financial situation, all these well-meaning people in Ireland and New York and London and all the rest of it, they've all been well-meaning. But I've always thought that if people really want to make a change, guess what? They want to actually boycott and bring the actual media machine to a halt. In other words, go and protest, stop the crap newspapers, stop the tabloids getting out there full of crap and lies, and that makes news in itself. Because without changing that media stream, that's what helps people to just sit on the couch, open another packet of highly toxic food, change the channel and go to sleep and wonder what's happening the next morning. So I reckon that people could look at that as a way of, if they really want to protest, is to stop the media.
Definitely. Tony, you wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there's, like you say, there's a lot of people coming around now. People are beginning to realise certain things. I want to give you a couple of examples because they're really good examples. There's a lot been going on about fracking that you mentioned earlier, guys. Well, the thing is, if we do have access to free energy, and we most certainly do, then we do not, under any way, shape or form, need fracking going on. Because if we've got free energy, there's no reason to frack anything, is there? Definitely. So that one's out the window just for one. And the same sort of thing with smart meters as well. If we can get hold of, or if we have knowledge and equipment and the ability to access the free energy that's available all around us, then we don't need to meter it, then, do we? So those smart meters out the window, fracking's out the window, and if you look at these problems that appear to be problems, you'll see that they've actually been manufactured in order to create fear, and that's the point. And we've got to get past the fear.
Definitely. Yeah, we have to wake up. The technology is out there, and we know in the past that inventors have either been bought out or they've been killed or something's happened with their invention. And I think more so now these days, it's more and more, there's more of it coming out, and it's staying out there, and people are beginning to experiment in themselves and bring out stuff. And because so many people, again, the people have the power. We have to remember that. We have the power. If you look at what happened in what's happening now in the Ukraine, I mean, the politicians are just powerless. I mean, I don't know where the president has gone. He's gone missing. Apparently, protesters broke into his house and they were just walking around and looking at how plush his house was and everything else. And I believe the police officers over there have joined the actual crowd as well. I mean, the people have the power, and we have to remember that with these puppets that are in government are just puppets, and they only have power because we let them have power.
Exactly. We acquiesced to them running things, and this is the point. I mean, something else that's become patently obvious recently is, what is government? Well, people think of this big, huge, magnificent monster of a machine that if you says you can't wear shorts on a Sunday, they're going to fine you for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And this is the ludicrousness of where we are actually coming to. Government is actually it's a figment of our imagination. The only people we see from government are basically the industrial military complex and a few politicians in the parliament, and it's becoming so blatant now. It's we're getting it already.
Exactly, and again, it goes back to the people have the power. But I would just say to all the listeners who listen to the show, ask yourself, what did you do this week to wake somebody up? Did you speak to somebody? Did you tell somebody about something? Did you send them a website? We need more and more people out there educating our friends and family and people you come across. I mean, Steve knows me, and Steve, there's been numerous occasions where if I get the opportunity or I see there's an opportunity, I will just go ahead and start talking about
You
stuff.
never miss an opportunity.
I never miss an opportunity.
In fact, I think you've told me you've sometimes gone out of your way to bring around an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. I have done, because I feel, and Steve feels, that we have a moral conscience to wake people up, and the more people that are waking up to what's going on, and we talk about it, and we have the radio show, but the things that we do on the side. I mean, it's funny. One time this week, Steve sent me a text, and I missed the text for the simple reason was Steve was talking to somebody about mortgages and what he could do, and he was dealing with that and trying to educate this person, and at the same time I was on the phone, the OYM phone, talking to somebody else about being a targeted individual and what this person may be able to do and where she can go and stuff like that. So it's amazing that, you know, even though the radio show, Richard, oh, okay, right, okay, we'd just like to say, Richard had to go there. I think he's gone now. Is he on Skype? He's signed off?
He signed out.
Right, okay.
He just sent us a message that he apologised, but he had to go.
Yeah, okay, no, Richard had to go. He has to run off and do stuff. But just to finish up what we're saying there, try and do as much as you can. If there's an opportunity out there, go and talk to somebody, educate them, give them the information, give them the link, and wake them up, because it's the 100 monkey. If we keep pushing and put this information out there, at least one a week, but if you can do more during the week and educate people, then the whole house of cards is going to fall. But without further ado, what I want to do is bring in Clive. Clive's been on the show twice before, with fantastic information, and we wanted to get Richard on because we knew Richard had to head off, and now what we're going to do is bring Clive in. So good evening, Clive. How are you?
Good evening. Yes, very well. Thank you very much.
I'm sure you've been kind of tuning in and listening to what's going on. Do you want to come in and tell us what you're going to be doing in the seminar and what you're going to be talking about?
Well, I'm going to be giving my, so to speak, basic talk on health for those who haven't already heard it. And then I'm going to be doing a number of other workshops, hopefully, because one of the things I want to teach people is hypnosis. I've spent a lot of years studying hypnosis, and I used to practice it for a while. I mean, I still do, but not as my primary occupation. And hypnosis is so incredibly important, and they should be teaching it at schools. You know, every time we smile at somebody, we're hypnotizing them. You know, people have this strange idea of what hypnotism is, but the reality is very different, and you can change people's lives just with a few words.
No, I'm sure you can. I mean, people who aren't aware would be concerned because they see all these stage hypnotists, and I know my mother's one of them, and she's concerned about hypnotism, and she's going, oh, that guy might, or whoever does it might get me to do things I shouldn't do. You know, and this is the fear they have because they see what's on TV. So how can we put that to rest for these people?
Well, the misconception that people have is that when they're hypnotized, that suddenly they lose control physically, mentally. But, you know, I was taught stage hypnotism. You know, a number of people have taught me how to do it, including McKenna, you know, the TV guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, how he explained it was like this. He said, well, the hypnotism starts the moment they see the advert for the show. You know, they go along to the show and they've already pre-decided whether, if they're asked to go on stage and be hypnotized, they've already decided whether they're going to accept it or not. And so if they're up on stage now, what the hypnotist does is he chooses, let's say, 20 people from the audience. Then he lines them all up, and he'll make a very subtle signal which they won't notice. He might blink, he might just make a little movement to see, maybe 1 in 10 people will follow his lead and will blink back. And they're the susceptible ones. They're the ones who are most easily influenced. So he'll send everybody else away and keep the ones who responded to his subtle sign. Then he might say, well, you know, what we're going to do is we're going to make you do something. And the person decides right there and then, am I going to make a fool of myself on a public stage or not? So when it comes to it, the person is in some way hypnotized, and you know, which is very easy to do, and they're then told, quack like a duck. Now they've got a choice. They can either do it, quack like a duck, or not. Now because they've probably already decided how they're going to react in this situation, they go along with it. it's not that they're suddenly regressed into a duck or anything like that. They know exactly what they're doing. They're walking around a stage in public quacking like a duck. They know it. Now, the trick comes on the way out, right? The hypnotist wants to get them out of the trance, and on the way out, they might say something like, and you won't remember anything that's just happened, something along those lines. And if they accept that suggestion, they're willing to take it, then they will not remember. So they've just done it, they knew they were doing it at the time, but they don't remember just afterwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but what about these people that will fake it, and then because I've seen Paul McKenna in Wembley conference, and there was 2,000 people there, and he got people on stage, and he obviously was picking out the people who are pretending to be hypnotized, and he could pick them up straight away, and just say, okay, thanks for coming up, and off they would go.
Right.
Does that make sense? He kind of, as you say, he'd know which people were susceptible and which people were faking it, and he'd pull out the fake ones and then leave the people who are actually prone to, who want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, all these things are pretty easy to work out. It's all easy when you know how it's done.
Yeah.
It's magic up until you know how it's done, and it's really obvious. Darren Brown, for instance, I learned from a couple of the teachers that he learned from, and so now I watch his programs, and some of it is just so obvious. Why aren't they seeing this really obvious thing? But to the average viewer who doesn't know how it's done, it does seem impossible.
It's sleight of hand, really, isn't it? It's the old magician's trick.
Well, yes, but hypnotism doesn't exist. People think that hypnosis is something that exists, but really it doesn't, because we're in different states of mind all day long. The most obvious pair of states of mind are love and fear. Love is the opposite of fear. Fear is the opposite of love. And they're states of mind. You can't be in a state of fear while being in a state of love, and vice versa. And I'm not talking about in love with somebody. I mean, you're either depressed, and being happy seems such a long way away. You can't imagine how you could be happy again. Then when you're really happy, you think, well, why was I depressed? Because in depression, you're in the past. Or if you're in the future, you're worrying about the future based on what happened to you in the past. But it's all imaginary. Fear doesn't exist because it hasn't happened yet. The past can't be changed. All you can do is change your perception about it. So where hypnosis is incredibly useful is to change perceptions. And one of the things I'm going to teach in the Masterpiece event in London in April is how to take somebody who's had, let's say, a traumatic experience in the past, which is living with them daily. I mean, the technique I'm thinking of, the very first time I ever tried it was this girl came to me and she explained to me that she'd had a problem in the past, but the last thing she wanted to do is to tell me what it was, which suited me just fine, because the way I work, I don't need to know what anybody's problems are. I don't need that. That's not part of it.
Okay.
So what I did was, I basically asked her, and this is a Richard Bandler technique, neuro-linguistic program, NLP, which everybody's so frightened about, which is you take them into a situation, you say to them, look, could you make a movie, a 10-second movie of the event that happened in the past? And if they say yes, they can do that. You essentially it's hard to explain without telling you the whole sequence, but you're basically reversing the past. You get them to view the movie backwards, and it's just a trick to get the subconscious to understand what you really want. The thing is that, let me give you another example. Let me just finish that one. It turned out that this girl had been raped as a child many times, and they used to cry about it every single day. It had never left them, even though they were now 30, it had never left them. But after this technique, which takes 5 minutes at most, what you do is you test it. You say, okay, think about the nasty event right now. You can't do it, can you? And oddly, it sounds like I'm showing off, but actually I've never had a failure with this system. It always works, and they say things like, "Well, yeah, I can remember what it was about, and I haven't forgotten anything." At the same time, it's like it's way back in the past. where it ought to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, we could do a tiny exercise right now for people who aren't driving or operating machinery or anything. It only takes 1 minute. Is just to close your eyes, and if there was somebody who was really nasty to you in the past, and you still can't quite get them out of your mind, but you'd like to, it could be, an old relationship or whatever it is that's still in your present when you want it back where it should be in the past. Imagine you could see in front of you like a billboard, a huge advertising billboard with this person's face on it. So what you do, if you can make a picture of that and have it, sort of in the distance with your eyes shut, and then what I want you to do is to shrink the picture right down to the size of a postcard. Right, so now you've got a postcard in front of you. Then I want you to see the colour going from colour to black and white. And now what I want you to do is to take the postcard in your hands, scrumple it up, and throw it over that cliff which has just appeared in front of you. So you throw it over the cliff. Now the problem's still there, or the past is still there, but it's over the cliff now. And if you want to go and see it, you've got to walk over the cliff to have a look. But it's no longer right in front of your face, because most people have these problems right in front of their faces. It's sort of like it's there as a poster in front of them all the time. And that simple technique, if you did that, you can open your eyes now, that simple technique is amazingly powerful, just because the subconscious works on a very, very simplistic level. It's a bit like a Labrador puppy. The Labrador puppy, all it wants to do is to please you. It wants to do whatever you want, but it's a Labrador puppy. It's got a brain the size of a walnut, and it finds it very hard to know what you want, because A, you're not understanding its language, and you're very, very confusing. So the subconscious is the same. 1 minute we want to give up chocolate, next minute we want to eat chocolate. The subconscious doesn't know whether we're coming or going, and it just falls back on the programming that you got between the ages of 0 and 7, essentially. That's what people seem to think. So if you can find a way to get into the subconscious, open the master control panel and say, look, mate, this is what I really want. I want self-confidence, I want self-esteem, I want whatever it is. And then you close the lid again, and then you carry on. And, a lot of hypnotists like to see you over and over and over again every week, but I don't work that way. I believe that if you get it right, and the person wants to change, which is crucial, then all you've got to do is go in once.
Yeah.
Put in the message.
Yeah, well, I can definitely say... Oh, we're hearing an echo there, Clive.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's better, it's gone now. We've just done it. Myself and Steve had our eyes closed, fair play, and I had a few billboards. And
I have to admit, I done the same thing, but there was no one on the billboard.
There's nobody.
No one has peed me off that badly.
No.
Well, no. Remember that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis.
Yeah.
So all you did was you heard my words, and if you felt they were worthwhile, you repeated them in your mind, just like every word I'm saying now, you're repeating to yourself. You can hear my voice in your head. And you either say, that's a load of rubbish, I'm not believing that, or you say, that sounds good, and you believe it. So it's a very, very simple process of, and you can do it yourself. As I say, it is self-hypnosis, so you don't need somebody else to hypnotize you. You can do it yourself. And I teach classes occasionally showing people how to do it. And the first thing that I do is I get people to hypnotize their leg so it won't move. And I say, all right, then go on, move your leg. And they've done it to themselves. They've locked their leg and they can't move it. And it's a weird thing.
Tell me something, Clive, regarding the hypnosis. I mean, this is a brilliant technique by the sound of it, and you've had great success with it. How could we apply that in the truth movement to our listeners now, or people listening? How can we get them? What could we do to get them to benefit from that, even that small exercise?
Well, you can do it yourself with anything you like, any picture you like. I hope the sound's coming out so I can hear myself. It's quite disconcerting, but hopefully it seems to be fixing itself. So, yeah, you can do that exercise to your heart's content at home as many times as you like, on as many issues as you like. You can try it with anything. Let's say you're frightened of spiders. Well, you can make a picture of a spider, shrink it right down, throw it over the cliff, and see whether your fear of spiders goes away. You can do anything with that tiny technique, and you can teach it to 5-year-olds,
Now, I've seen Paul McKenna do this regarding phobias, And one of the things he said is phobias are learned. It's not something you're born with. It's something that you have learned maybe as a child or picked it up from somebody. And what he said, what he did was he got them to reverse the phobia and look at the situation or whatever the phobia is, to look at it in a funny kind of way. And,
exactly. And that's one of the techniques that I teach as well. We both learned it, him and I, from Richard Bandler. And Richard Bandler has written a lot of interesting books. Probably the most accessible one, perhaps, is called Get the Life You Want. And it's a series of self-hypnosis techniques, each 2 or 3 pages long or something, so very easy to do, incredibly easy to understand. And the postcard one is in it, as is the what's known as the cinema one, which is the one we've just been discussing, where you reverse the images. And it's so wonderfully simple. When you realise how simple the subconscious is, the first day I learnt how to do hypnosis for the very first time, I was looking for complexity. And then I realised, my God, there is no complexity to this.
That's right.
Actually, it's 100% simple. And lesson number 1 is when you're speaking or thinking, do not use negatives. So if you say to yourself, I want to give up chocolate, well, no, you don't, because you don't want to give up anything. You don't want to give up anything at all. But what the subconscious understands is words like, well, I want to be free from tobacco. Because your subconscious, that little puppy dog, understands the idea of being free from something because that's positive. In the universe, there are no negatives. We think, oh, something's gone wrong, but in actual fact, nothing goes wrong. This is particularly relevant when it comes to health, because doctors will tell you, oh, well, your body's gone wrong, we can fix it. But I don't follow that line at all, not one bit. I don't think your body ever goes wrong. I think your body just responds to a situation. And I don't believe that you get ill for anything other than a reason. Every illness happens for a reason. Every disease happens for a reason. And it's there to teach you something. I mean, when I was studying spontaneous remission many years ago, why is it that some people just get better and some get better in record time? They've got a tumour the size of a melon, and in 4 days it shrunk 80%. How is that possible, and how did they do it? So one of the things that struck me quite early on in that bit of research was that the people who'd recovered from cancer, as an example, would say things like, well, at the beginning, I was so angry and hated it and used to say to myself, why me? Why has this happened to me? But then, after a while, I realised I had to change my life. I had to change my job maybe, or change my partner, or change my house, or tell my family what I really thought, or speak my mind and stop being so frightened, or whatever it was. Change the diet, start drinking water for a change, get to bed on time, whatever the thing was. And they said, well, actually now, it's really strange to say this, but I'm grateful to the cancer. I'm actually grateful to it because, A, I realised I might have been dead if I hadn't listened. But just to think that the answer is to go to a doctor, to get a treatment, not a cure, just get a treatment, and that will solve the problem is a farce.
Yeah.
Everybody with an illness, has got to have a think about, why is this happening? I mean, let's take an example. The body develops a fever. Okay, you go to the doctor and they say, oh my God, you've got a fever. Here are some drugs to bring the temperature down. But unless it's life-threatening, let's say a child has got a life-threatening high temperature, you put it in a lukewarm or cold bath, and you bring it down that way naturally. That's a natural way to bring a temperature down. But to give a drug means that you think the body's making a mistake creating that temperature. But we all know full well that, let's say you've got the flu, the body develops a temperature to burn off the flu virus, because our bodies can handle about 48 degrees C. But most viruses can't handle that temperature. Cancer, for instance, cancer cells tend to die at 43 degrees C. So if you apply hypothermia, high temperatures, cancer cells tend to die off because they can't handle more than 43 degrees. So the doctor just thinks, well, fevers, you don't want them, but that's denying the inherent intelligence of everybody's bodies.
It's incredible what the body is capable of. And the more and more this this information gets out to the alternative media, or to the alternative media and to the listeners, and we pass the information around, the better. I'd just like to bring Tony in, because Tony's been very quiet there out on the side there. Come on in, Tony. Do you want to have a comment on what we've been talking about?
Yeah, well, this is the whole point. When I actually wrote the book on Blueprints of Cosmic Consciousness, which is available on Awake Conscious Awareness, as you know, part 2 was all about medicine, because I didn't know either. When I'd looked at free energy and stuff like that, and then I started looking into medicine, I'm going, my God, the pattern's the same. Once you understand that what we've been told is in actually the facts are the opposite, then all these other areas start to open up. Politics, it could be medicine, it could be physics, it can be, history, it can be, more subjects than you can shake a stick at. All of a sudden, you see the opposite to what you thought it was. And as soon as you can see that revelation, I suppose, it starts to spin everything round. Your whole life starts to turn around. You think, oh my God, I can do this, and I can deal with that, and I can sort this out, and I can sort that out. And it's just applying the right point of view or perspective, I think.
I think so. I think we have to. People need to get control of their lives. I do kind of agree with Clive. I've always kind of maintained that we do have a path in their life. Everybody has their path. A divine path, if you want to call it that. We just have to find out what that path is. And I've said it before, and I don't know, again, I'll open this up to Tony and Clive, but I've said it before on the show, and it was a kind of a eureka moment for me when I kind of came across this kind of idea. And I'm not saying, I'm not taking it and saying it's my idea, but it's just the way I came across it. Years and years ago, in the olden days of old computers where you had the old Pentium 90 computers, I used to use, before I was awake or knew anything what was going on, I used to play computer games on the old computers. And the computer games were written in a way that, so you know which way to go. If you went down an alleyway and there's nobody shooting at you and the doors were closed, that meant you were going down the wrong way. And if you went down the alleyway where people were shooting at you and the doors open, that means that you're going down the right way. And that's how the game. And I kind of sussed it up at the game. And I thought, well, I'm going down this alleyway and nobody's shooting at me, so obviously I'm not supposed to go down this way. And then it kind of dawned on me, kind of the eureka moment, saying, well, this must be like the path in life. When you find your path, because there's a lot of people out there go, no matter what I do, it doesn't seem to work out. And my answer to that is, well, you're obviously going down the wrong path. Because when you go down the right path, the energy will be with you. It'll be right behind you. So you just have to find out what your path is in life, what you like doing, and then find out what that is and do it as to your best ability. Again, I say to people, don't chase the money. If you're young and looking for a career, don't chase the money. Chase what you're interested in, because the money will follow. There's no point being in a job that's paying loads of money if every Monday morning you wake up and dread going into work. You have to chase your passion. And if you chase your passion, I mean, there's been times that myself and Steve have, we've been running OYM for, just July be 4 years. And, the odd time myself and Steve have said, well, do we carry on with OYM? Do we carry on doing what we're doing? And, it's just at that time where massive energy seems to come in, or some boost seems to come in. I think you'll agree with me on that one, Steve, yeah?
No, I think you're right. I mean, there has been times when, more so you than I, because, at the end of the day, you do a lot more of the background work behind the whole thing. So, I know that there was times before when you were like recently there, you took your sabbatical, as you call it, because you were burned out. This to you, this is, well, in my interpretation, this to Alan, it's kind of like a full-time job, because, as I say, the show was 2 hours long, and we start and we go through. I arrive up, I do a little bit of research and a few things during the week, but Alan kind of gets it all together, and it's like, and then the show kicks off at 7 o'clock, and then it's like a duck sailing on the water, but underneath the legs are paddling, or the feet are paddling, or whatever you call them. But there has been times where we've both kind of had conversations, and we've kind of looked at each other and went, are we making a difference? Are we making a difference? We kind of reach low points, if you like. And as Alan said, and it's true, sometimes we reach a low point, we're kind of thinking, is it all worthwhile? What's the point? We're fighting the good fight, but we don't see the fruits of our labour. We're not kind of seeing change en masse. But then something always happens, and it has happened time and time again. Something always happens, and you kind of go, there's the little kick in the backside, or the little golden nugget that we need, and then we continue on.
Exactly, yeah. And
can I
go ahead, Tony?
Can I just give the people an example of that? A little while ago, Alan and Steve let out some information about Barry Trower and the masts, these Tetra systems and the Wi-Fi and the dangers of the radiation coming off these things.
Yeah.
And basically, we did a lot of work. I mean, we did a lot of posts on synchronicity and did some radio shows on it. We got Barry on. We repeated, Open Your Mind's work, etc. And we really did a good push to get this information out there. And consequently, as a result of what Barry's done, as what we've done, and various other people pushing the information to the people that need to know, i.e. the people who are getting affected by it, some of the later information comes back where they're actually going to roll these systems back. And I'm sure you've heard about this as well, Al, Steve.
Well, we not really. If you want to enlighten us, that'd be great, because I know there's some countries. I know Poland has stopped Wi-Fi in schools, and I know in France they've young kids, they've stopped Wi-Fi in the schools. But if there's any new information on that, Tony, please let us know. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what actually happened was a friend of mine who I'm very close with and actually introduced me to Barry Trower in the first place actually took a call recently. I think it was a couple of months back now, and he actually turned around and said, well, look, because of the effort that we've been putting out there and because of the work that we'd all done, the police were basically going to be rolling the Tetra systems back. And that was coming from the higher ups at the top, at the upper end of the scale. Because, I mean, you get 20 of these police officers in a riot van, and it's like sitting in a microwave while they're microwaving each other, with all the microwaves bouncing around in the van.
That's right.
And they're going, hang on, we're dropping like flies with cancer and going a bit scatty at the same time.
That's right. I remember Barry saying there was about 7 police officers over the course of a week at his house concerned about the Tetra system. But over here we've the Tetra system, and no matter what we do, they just don't seem to be bothered about it. So I just think, when the police start dropping with tumours and cancers, maybe they'll start waking up to it.
Yeah, it's not just the police, it's the fire service, the ambulance people as well.
Yeah, anything over 300 megahertz, that's the danger. And, we've talked about this. We actually have Dr. Carle, Dr. Michael Carlo, I think his name is, if memory serves me well, coming on the show, who was the partner of Dr. Rapacholi, who sent out this world report, WHO report, the World Health Organization, saying that Wi-Fi is safe. And Dr. Carlo was his business partner, and he's going to confirm that Rapacholi was lying, and that he was actually there's a conflict of interest, and he was working for the communications industry as well. And all these countries have been given this World Health Organization report, thinking that because it's the World Health Organization that the report is legitimate. It's 7 years old, and it's wrong, and they ended up sacking Rapacholi when they found out that he had a conflict of interest. But even trying to educate people on a level in schools, they're still convinced that the government, even with everything that the governments are doing, destroying the country, in the UK as well as over here in Ireland, destroying the country, they have some sycophantic belief and trust in the government, and I don't know what it is. I mean, talk about mind control and conditioning, but I don't know, maybe Clive can probably help us with the hypnotherapy and, see what we can do. What do you think, Clive?
Well, let me give you an example as to how they hypnotize us all. They say things like, well, let's take 2 women. They both get breast cancer, and one of them is very, very lucky. They are early diagnosis. Just a year in, they're diagnosed, and they go through the mill. They have the chemotherapy. They have their breasts removed or whatever the treatment they decide to do is, and they live another 6 years. So 7 years life expectancy. Then they take another woman and they say, well, this poor woman, she was diagnosed late, and I'm afraid because of the late diagnosis, she only lived 1 year. So how do they work this out? What they do is that first woman, she was diagnosed 1 year from the start. The second woman, she was diagnosed 6 years in. So she had 6 years keeping her breasts, not even knowing she had a problem. And then just in the last year, they diagnosed her. But then, just like the other woman, she died after 7 years exactly. They'll both die on the same day, but the government will claim that one lived 6 years longer than the other because of early diagnosis. And this is a lie. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, people shouldn't actually go near the actual mainstream treatment, but there is a message here on the chat facility which is really nice of Chris. He said, Alan and Steve, I have a friend still alive battling cancer thanks to info on your show. So thanks for that, Chris. It's good to know that some of the information that we put out there is useful,
Well, there are a few things that people really, really need to know. For instance, did you know that if you give blood once or perhaps twice a year, you can reduce your risk of a heart attack by 80%?
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah. There was a fairly large study in Finland recently, and just giving blood is once or twice is all you have to do. Now, think about this. Women who are premenopausal, young women, very rarely get heart attacks or serious diseases because they're giving blood monthly, whether they like it or not. The moment that menstruation stops, the number of heart attacks in women skyrockets. But if they start giving blood like they used to, the excess iron which is building up is lost. And you've only got to do it once or twice a year. You keep your iron in balance.
Wow, that's interesting.
This sort of information, in some cases they'll even pay you for the blood. This sort of information they don't want out there because it's not good for business. On a similar line, people don't understand about sulfur. When they started using chemical fertilizers, all the minerals started disappearing from the soil and therefore the plants. But one of the big ones was sulfur. We're really suffering through lack of sulfur. Now, the authorities know this because the research has been in for ages, but they don't choose to do anything about it. Why? Well, it would be bad for business. Let me explain how sulfur works, because anybody can understand it. Let's say that the cells of your body have taken on some toxins, toxic metals. You've got too much copper or too much cadmium or too much mercury in your mouth or whatever it is. Let's say you've just been unlucky and you've been really stupid and you've had a vaccination. Now you're going to be full of various toxins, including mercury. So how are you going to get it out? Well, there are a couple of really good ways. You could go for, say, a 30C, which means 30C homeopathic remedy. Let's say you've got cadmium poisoning. Maybe you've taken a hair mineral analysis test, which are very cheap. You realise, oh my God, I've got a lot of cadmium in my body. Well, you could take a homeopathic remedy of cadmium, maybe 30C, which is C being century, so that's 30 with 3 noughts after it. So it's diluted so much there are no molecules left. It's below Avogadro's number where the thing doesn't exist, but it does exist, of course, on an electrical frequency basis. So a lot of people can detox any heavy metals with a homeopathic remedy. But sulfur is another way, because if you take sulfur, it turns metals into sulfates. It sulfates them. And let's say water would not dissolve a metal, but if you sulfate it by adding sulfur, it becomes copper sulfate, for instance, which will dissolve in water. So you can take sulfur, get all the heavy metals that have been locked in for years out, and assuming you've taken enough sulfur, then it will sulfate them all out and pull them out of your body. It's incredible what sulfur can do. Incredible. And almost nobody knows about it.
Well, it's obviously not out there for the obvious reasons, because with the whole kind of eugenics program, I mean, we are being poisoned. I mean, one of the things that we had Dr. Philip Kelly on the show there last year. We'll have to get him on again. And he said, which is what Richard said, and I'm sure you'll agree, Clive and Tony, that he said, it doesn't matter how healthy you are, if you're living in an environment that's poisoned, it's very hard to stay healthy.
Well, you've got to do more than just eat food from a supermarket to achieve it. Even if you're eating the best organic food from a supermarket, you're still going to have health issues because of that very reason. We're so toxic.
Yeah.
But, what happened, let me just finish the sulfur story, because what happened was, when it was in the 1960s that they discovered that sulfur had these curative properties, particularly reducing pain. It's incredible for reducing pain. So what did the authorities do? Well, as you know, they've been buying up, the bad guys have been buying up the good guys for years. Most of the health food companies, most of the health supplement companies, whereas they may have started off with people with the most noble motives, a lot of them have been bought out by the big boys. And what do they do to the sulfur that they were selling that was pure? Well, all you've got to do is put a little additive in it, like titanium dioxide. You can put some additives in it, and immediately it stops it working. So, many researchers find, well, this brand works, but all those brands don't work. And it's taken me ages to figure out which is the real sulfur and which isn't. Up until a few months ago, I was selling what I believed was the top brand, which is called Opti MSM. I used to believe that was the top brand, but since I've changed to the new version we're doing, the results have been stunning, completely different to the results we had before, which were good, but the results now are most interesting. It's very hard for cancer cells to survive in a strong sulfur environment. It's very hard for cancer cells, because a cancer cell differs, and many people don't know this. What's the difference between a cancer cell and an ordinary cell? An ordinary cell is aerobic, it breathes oxygen, but a cancer cell is a cell that's starved of oxygen, and to survive, it starts burning glucose instead. So what sulfur does is it carries oxygen into the body. So if you can carry oxygen to a cancer cell, it'll tend to pack up and die and go home. The doctors would have you believe that you catch cancer, but that's not the case. Everybody's got cancerous cells in their body, whether they're a baby, a child, an adult, whatever. At autopsy, it's shown that people generally have cancer at least half a dozen times in their lives. They don't know about it, it doesn't kill them. But if a doctor happens to do a scan and finds one of these tumours, which wasn't going to kill you, you weren't even going to notice, and they say, you've got cancer, those words alone, you've got cancer, just those words alone increase the risk of a heart attack in the month after you've just been told by 25 times.
Wow. And what are you saying to people now, Clive? If people come to you and say, Clive, I've just been diagnosed with cancer, what are you recommending to them?
Well, it's very simple. First off, they've got to change their thought process, because what people who get cancer tend to do is they tend to go to the doctor and they go to the hospital looking for cancer. They have scans done, tests done. They're looking for cancer. Now, the subconscious, that little puppy dog, says, oh, this person's looking for cancer. They haven't really got it, but if that's what they want and they're really giving it a lot of thought, hours a day talking to everybody about it, it'll give them cancer. That's how it works. Whatever you think of happens. You think about something enough, you create it. We do create with our thoughts.
Yeah.
So those people, what they've really done is they've lost their health. But they've gone to a doctor to get their health back. They don't want drugs, they don't want surgery, they don't want radiation. They just want their health back. But they're going to people who've never studied health one day in their careers. Doctors don't do health, they don't do cures, they don't do causes, they don't do minerals, they don't do vitamins, they don't do essential fats, they don't do amino acids, and they don't know about health. There's not one day where they study healthy people. They just study diseases, treatments for it with drugs, treatments for it with radiation and surgery. Now, if you want surgery, radiation, or drugs, go to a doctor. But if you want health, don't even go down the road of looking for the cancer. Look for health. look at what people did to get over their cancers using health. And what they did was they took supplements often, particularly vitamin C. They took things like their health seriously, so they changed their diet, tried to eat organic foods if they could afford it, cut out the carbs, because the carbs and sugar are the most dangerous foods out there. Most people are ill because of the carbs, because of the sugars. And it's not just because carbs are carbs, it's because they've changed carbs by hybridizing the plants. And we eat a lot more than we ought to because it's cheap.
Yeah.
But then again, vegetables are cheap. But there's no one size fits all. There are certain types of cancer which you don't want to do what you want to do with the others. I mean, we're taught, aren't we, that it's all about your immune system and you must build up your immune system, right?
Yeah.
This is important in all cases, but that's not the case with some cancers. Some cancers have an overactive immune system and you don't want to give them vitamin C. If you've got an overactive immune system, you might want to calm it down. So going to a health expert is what you do if you have cancer, and you learn everything about health, because if you are healthy, by definition, you have no diseases.
Yeah, technically speaking, but I do find that this might be going a little bit off track, but it's a subject that we're going to be talking to JP about in a few weeks. There seems to be an awful lot of energy changes taking place globally, and a lot of people are all of a sudden getting sick and then all of a sudden getting better again. They go to the doctor and go, I have this ailment, and then within a week it's gone. And it seems to be since probably January this year, funny enough, that I've spoken to a few people and they've noticed a few things. And even last year, the one person I spoke to last year now said, since, believe it or not, I know this is uncanny, but since the 12th of December 2012, which is supposed to, be the changeover, this certain person started having symptoms he's never had before. And some of them went away, and then, sometimes they come back. And other people have said the same thing about these energy changes. And there is a reason for this, and I think Tony would probably be, Tony, you know about this, I think.
Yeah, there's an actual energy coming through from the galactic center of the universe. And as it's spreading out across the galactic arms, they actually knew this was going to be coming. And part of the reason for all the aluminium and barium in the chemtrails is to try and reflect some of that energy away. Because what that energy is, it's actually consciousness. Now, in the same way that we look at a cell in our hand, it's actually a living cell, because it takes loads and loads of cells to build a hand. And the same with the body. And if we look at the planet, what we've actually got, when we really look into this subject, is a living cell. Okay? Because all of the ecosystems are working away, all doing their jobs, keeping everything in balance, doing the nature bit. So the Earth itself is a living cell, and we are part of that living cell. We live off it. And then the same again on the macro, again, is the galaxy. And the galaxy is a living organism, because all of that is full of living cells. So what's happening with my hand is there's coherence. In other words, my hand is talking to my brain right now and saying, yeah, I'm fine. I've got the bones, I've got the, all the bits and pieces, and it's communication. So the cells in my hand are passing information to my brain. Now, if I hit my hand with a hammer, I'll jump because it'll hurt, because my hand will tell me, oi, this hurts. Yeah?
Yeah.
So that will fire the nerve impulses to the brain, which will give me pain in the hand, which will alert me to something's up with my hand. And that's actually what's going on with the human race in general. We're receiving this conscious feedback from the entity that we are part of. We are part of the Earth. And look at all the negative things we're doing to the Earth. And now the Earth is actually communicating with us and saying, look, we're poisoning this, we're doing this, and this is not good. We need to stop cutting down the forests. We need to stop doing all these things. We need to look at what we're doing because it's getting bad. Okay? So the Earth gives us, biofeedback, basically. What's the word I'm looking for? It's basically conscious. It's communicated. Coherence was the word.
Okay.
And it's the same again on a macro level as it is on a micro level. The universe is giving us information about it and about we're part of it, and we are part of the Earth, and we are a part of this entire system. Now, if anybody wants any proof of that, then all they've got to do is look at the geometric spiraling arms of the galaxies. Well, if there's no communication, there's no energy, how does the moon pull the ocean on a high tide? There's a pulling motion. So again, we'll go on to the macro for that. In the same way that the moon is pulling the water on the Earth, the sun is pulling the Earth and all the other planets into this orbit. And in the same way that our sun is connected to our planets, that sun is connected to the other planets as well, and the other star systems, which are connected to other star systems, which are connected to other star systems, which are connected to the central core of the galaxy.
It's funny how it's all interlinked, and as we had a caller, Patrick called in, and he said, when I was talking about the Viking apocalypse, and yesterday it was supposed to be the end of the world, and he phoned in and said, oh, we're in a different dimension. That's the 3D world. I mean, in a kind of funny way, you can kind of understand that, because that's what they're saying is happening. That we are kind of moving away. I mean, apparently there's supposed to be a split. That's my understanding of it. What's your take on that, Tony?
Well, if there's one dimension, there's two, and if there's two, there's three. If there's three, there's four. Anyway, the thing is, we're all linked in dimensional shift as well. Now, I remember studying Bruce Cathay's work. He did the harmonic code. Now, he was approached by some top-level scientists that Bruce said, you know what, the maths that I'm looking for suggests that there's 4 dimensions. What do you think? And the scientist who was trying to recruit him to work at the top level of government at the time said, here, we work on 12.
Wow.
So it's 12 dimensions.
So, and do you think that with what's happening now with people experiencing certain things and things happening, that we are moving...
Okay, it's all gone quiet.
1, 2, 1, 2. Are you there? Tony, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here, but it's very sporadic.
Okay, it's obviously the internet going up and down. Talking about having trouble, I do believe that you had problems with the website during the week. Was that hacked?
Well, we're not actually sure, but we think there was an element of interference with the website for absolute sure, yeah. Somebody's done something which has interfered with it. It actually says that the site is available for purchase, but when you search on the site name, you'll realise that, no, we've bought it and we've got it till the end of, November 2014. But yes, indeed, the site is down, which is incredibly, disruptive for what we were doing. So we've definitely had a slap in the back of the head, if you like. But we are trying to get the site up and back onto another server as soon as possible. Because it's something to do with the communication with the server, and we can't. I'm not a webmaster. I don't know about these things, but based on the information that's come back to me, we have had some interference of one kind or another for sure.
Okay, well, it's bound to happen when you have good information and you're putting good information out there. Things like that happen. I mean, last week's show was an example. For some reason, it never happened before, where everything the stream just went down and there was no audio, and if you're getting near, I think if you ever get near the information where they don't want you talking about, that's when something happens. And I don't know, I'll just pass it off to Clive. Clive, have you had any instance where what you're talking about or what you're doing, anything's happened to you?
Just a few weeks ago, I was looking at YouTube, and each week I make a program called the Health Revolution. So I was looking at the Health Revolution when I came home from the studio, and it had got however many views. So I went to bed, and I got up the next morning, and there they were, the views I'd had last night. So I reloaded it to see how many people had watched it overnight, and I watched the numbers go down.
Wow.
They'd fixed them overnight, and UK Columns had the same thing. Everybody's getting the same thing, because if you've got 10,000 viewers, then people pay attention. But if you've only got a few hundred, people say, oh, well, they can't be worth watching. They've only got a few hundred clicks on YouTube.
That's right. I have heard this. Tony.
Would you mind if I just answer the question that you asked before about your friend who got ill after 2012? Because I think I can tell him why that happened.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
You know what happens when you're working really, really hard, and then you finally get to your holiday, right? You get a couple of weeks off, and what's the first thing that happens? You get a cold, right?
Yeah.
And what's happened is your subconscious has realized that, okay, you've got a holiday now, you can relax, so therefore the body goes into healing, and that the cold that happens is a release, okay? You're getting all that mucus out, you're maybe running a temperature. It's actually a good thing. The body's chosen the time wisely for you. So it's a release of stress, in that situation. So look at 2012. Let's say your friend was taking it very seriously and actually believed that the end of the world could be possible, or some dramatic change which was a bit frightening. Then it doesn't happen. Just like suddenly going on holiday, that's the time when you're going to get ill. We assume that illness is a bad thing. What if your body is hyper intelligent, much more intelligent than you or me, and it knows exactly what it's doing, and that was just a release of stress?
Well, that kind of makes sense. I don't think he was worrying about it being the end of the world. I think he knew it was more of an energy change. It's just interesting.
People are often scared of change, aren't they? Whatever it is.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah, exactly. I mean, we have to, and I always say to people, you have to step outside your comfort zone to learn and educate yourself. If you stay inside your comfort zone, you'll never learn anything. And, break outside and do the things that you might be fearful of or scare you, because, and again, learning about fear takes the fear away as well.
Well, quite, and realizing that fear is the opposite of love, and if you find yourself in a state of fear, you need something to remind yourself as to what state you want to be in. That's why writing a post-it note on the fridge, or a post-it note on the mirror, or something like that, which says, you could write it any way you like. You could say, if you're angry, you're wrong. If you're happy, you're right. If you're feeling depressed, you're wrong. The natural state for a human being is happy and healthy. One needs to trick oneself into being happy again. And how I learnt this lesson the hard way was about 15 years ago. I was in the deepest depression you can imagine. One of those ones where you can't imagine what it would be like not to be depressed. It's just, if somebody had bet me money, how quickly can you snap out of it? I would have said, well, it's going to take me days to snap out of this because life seems so bleak and impossible. And anyway, so I was in this deep fudge when suddenly the phone rings. And this is this incredibly sexy girl being fabulously nice to me. And I suddenly find that I've snapped from the deepest, darkest depths of despair to ecstasy in a microsecond. And it struck me at that point, look how out of control I am with myself when all it takes is a couple of seconds of a nice girl on the phone and I'm happy.
Yeah.
I thought, well, if the girl can do that, I can do it to myself.
Yeah, and it's mind over matter a lot of the time. You have to rationalise to a certain extent. For me, anyway, that's the way I see things. I'm a very kind of a logical kind of person, and I look at things. And yes, we can. It's very easy. You can't be positive 100% of the time, but I think you have to be thankful for small mercies as well. And one of the things I've said to people is, if you're feeling down, put the music on, put a song on that you like, and dance to it, because it's very hard to dance when you're not happy. But force yourself to do it. And then after a while, you'll find that you'll cheer up. And
there are lots of other... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
There are lots of other tricks like that. One is to look into the mirror and smile at yourself. Look into your eyes in the mirror and smile at yourself for about 1 minute. It's very hard to stay unhappy if you've been smiling at yourself, partly from a physical reason, that the muscles of the mouth trigger serotonin in the brain. So you can flood yourself with happy chemicals by smiling. So I would challenge anybody who's depressed to try drinking, say, 1 litre of water or 1.5 litres of water, getting super hydrated, and then smiling at themselves for a minute and see how they feel. They'll probably find they're giggling against their will.
Yeah, and also they say that you use more muscles frowning than you do smiling and laughing. So, I think it's important to stay positive. But listen, we have about 10 minutes or so left. What I'd like to do is just focus on the seminar, and again, let's get that information out on what you're doing. So just a question for Tony. Just before we went live, one of our listeners asked us a question. So I'm going to pass it back over to Tony again, if you can let them know. It's just regarding the actual listeners planning to pop over to the event in April for 1 or 2 days, and you just wanted to know that if the event is near Heathrow, and is there any accommodation reserved for people travelling? Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. The event is actually at the Sheraton Hotel it's basically at the Heathrow Airport. And that's in Drayton, which is UB7OHG. And that's Friday, April the 11th. And that goes on till April the 13th. Tickets are available on the New Humanity Movement web. If we go newhumanitymovement.com, and then if you go to the head page there, everything that you need to know is there. Speakers, hotels, exhibit tickets, sponsors, press releases, stream live tickets, because we will be live streaming this event around the planet. And obviously there's certain, tickets that are available for there. If you wanted to become a volunteer, then there's certain areas whereby if you can help us out at the event, then we can help you out, etc. You can become a speaker, you can get involved, and the panel of the experts is just growing and growing. Kerry Cassidy's joining us as well, just more and more people coming on board. And as a lot of people all know, Kerry's one of the biggest names out there, and she's definitely coming. So, she's definitely going to be speaking at the event, so that's going to be good.
Excellent.
But,
go ahead, Tony, sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying it's really warming up now. And tickets are getting a little bit scarce, so I suggest people get in there and get them sorted. But all good. It's really good.
You have quality guests on there. I have to say that the list of guests is really, really good. And I would just like to say, I know we talked originally probably early in the year and just before Christmas, and you did invite myself and Steve over to the actual show in April, and we do appreciate that. But just for logistical reasons, being family men and all that, it was just a bit awkward for us, but we do appreciate it. And maybe somewhere down the line, when you're having another seminar and we can do it, we'll try and get over and get involved,
Sorry, it went a bit choppy there, so I don't know if I spoke over you or anything. I do apologise if that was the case.
That's okay.
But yeah, we are sort of like discussing the possibility of having the next one over in good old Ireland. So that might be one to hold your breath for.
Now that would be interesting.
There's the pub crawl sorted.
There's the pub crawl sorted. Who's taking care of the pub crawl? Is that Chris on the chat room? Is it Chris? No,
I think it's Chris. I think it's Chris taking care of the pub crawl.
Chris, you got your pub crawl. I think it's going to happen. We don't know if we bring all them speakers over. I think it'll be one hell of a pub crawl. So it'll go from the virtual to the real, I think. But, Clive, tell us about yourself. Are you going to have, besides speaking, is there going to be stalls there, Clive? Are you going to have a stall where people can go up and talk to you and buy stuff off you, or what's happening on that side?
Well, yeah, exactly that. As some people may know, I have a company called ancientpurity.com, and I started ancientpurity.com because I couldn't get the quality of supplements that I wanted. Literally, there are about 2% of the supplements in health food stores, in my opinion, are really good, and the rest are there to make money for the company, not to make people well. So I sell very basic supplements in a way, things like sulfur, things like real salt, not sea salt like you get in the shops, but real salt, fulvic minerals, magnesium, iodine, the really simple things that allow people to get their brains back, because people need to understand that all these modern diseases like fibromyalgia, Alzheimer's and so on, they aren't really diseases. They're not things you can see under the microscope. It's just bad eating. And so we sell superfoods like coconut oil. I've seen people reverse Alzheimer's with coconut oil, 6 weeks on 4 tablespoonfuls of coconut oil, and their family members have reported things like, well, it was impossible to speak to them on the phone in the old days, but after 4 weeks, 6 weeks of coconut oil, I'm speaking to my mum on the phone again. Recovering, say, 2 years of Alzheimer's in 6 weeks. Now, that's pretty major, and all it costs is 20 quid's worth of coconut oil.
That's right. We actually had the doctor on who had a video on YouTube, and we contacted her, and her husband suffered from Alzheimer's, and she was giving him coconut oil, and his recovery, or you could say maybe not so much recovery, but definitely he improved from taking it. But we have a couple of questions come in there. Steve, over to you.
Yeah, sorry, I was just typing Clive's website there because John was looking for the website. John, it's ancientpurity.com, as Clive just mentioned. If you need to contact Clive, I will type that in again momentarily. But yeah, we do have two questions that have just come in. One is from Jim, UK, and Jim says, if you get a chance, can you ask Clive if he is familiar with the health benefits of 35% food-grade hydrogen peroxide?
Well, hydrogen peroxide is a very interesting thing. It sort of carries oxygen with it. 35% hydrogen peroxide is the way to buy it, but if you spilt that on your skin, it would be like pouring concentrated acid on your skin. So if you're going to be using hydrogen peroxide as a medicine or a remedy, you want to dilute it down to 3% as the maximum. So you just dilute it down with water from 35 to 3%. The most dramatic use of hydrogen peroxide that I've ever seen was with this chap who had lung cancer, and his wife chose to help him by buying a nebulizer, which you can buy online for about 50 quid, and she put some colloidal silver in there and a few drops of 3% hydrogen peroxide, and put it in the nebulizer, and the nebulizer atomizes it into this fine mist. And so he was breathing it in, and he was going to die. He'd been given a few days left to live, and he spent his last few days with a bucket, and he'd managed to spit blood and phlegm into a bucket every minute or so. After 3 hours nebulizing the colloidal silver and the hydrogen peroxide dissolved the phlegm, which was lining his lungs, so suddenly he could breathe again, and it was lack of oxygen that was killing him. And the colloidal silver fixed the infection that he had at the time in his lungs, and he didn't die.
It's amazing, this information is gold dust, really, really is, for people who are just suffering. And, I always say, and I don't know whether you'll agree with this, Clive, but when you approach somebody who's been diagnosed with something, and you say, look, there's alternative solutions, and you go, oh, that's all mad, witch doctor stuff, whatever. Them people, to me, are not desperate enough. Because if you're sick and you've been diagnosed with something that you could die from, then you will try anything. But yet, sometimes their conditioning is so powerful that even though they know they're going to die, they just won't do it.
Well, exactly. But it's very easy to educate yourself on this. I mean, if anybody's got a problem with their body or their mind, let's say they've got Alzheimer's, you could go onto Google and write in the words Alzheimer's natural cure. And you can always be guaranteed you'll find the answer on the first few pages of Google right away. What people do is, let's say they want a new carpet. They'll probably go into several carpet shops, look at dozens and dozens of carpets and decide which one they want. They get ill, they go to the first doctor they find, believe everything they're told and do it and die.
Mm. Or else they leave it too late to try something, and then they die, and they say, oh, well, that didn't work, when they left it too late. But we have another question for you there, one more question, and then we'll start wrapping things up there. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, just in relation to the hydrogen peroxide, Jim also said that he does dilute it down to 3%, and he uses 6 drops in 8 ounces of filtered pure water, and he drinks it every day. And, good man, Jim. Last question is from Jerry, and Jerry's wondering, Clive, if you could just go over your explanation again as to why giving blood helps reduce the heart attack. He wants clarification on that one.
Well, it seems to be to do with the iron. It seems that a lot of us seem to have too much iron, and let me just, if you want to know about it, the Journal of the National Cancer Institute have done studies on it, the American Journal of Epidemiology, the American Medical Association. This is from the American Journal of Epidemiology, one of the most esteemed medical journals out. Researchers found in a sample of 2,682 men in Finland, those who donated blood a minimum of once a year had 88% lower risk of heart attacks than those that did not. They said the removal of oxidative iron from the body through blood donations means less iron oxidation and reduced cardiovascular diseases. So it seems to be all to do with iron.
All right, so make sure that you, if you give blood, keep your iron count down in your blood. Yes, Steve.
I was just thinking, actually, I've never given blood. My father has been a long time blood donor, sorry. And the one thing that kind of stopped me, I know there's benefits of helping other people by donating blood. I didn't realise that it could also benefit me as well. But I'm just thinking the only thing that would prevent me is the fear of the needles. And now I'm just thinking of Clive's thing with the billboard and the postcard and the piece of paper. I'm going to have to use that. I will definitely try that and see how I get on, and maybe donate some blood.
You know, just in case, I can't give blood down here in the south.
Why?
Because I lived in the UK. If I have to give blood...
Oh, they hold that against you, do they?
Yeah, they do, yeah. Because of I don't know whether you know this, Clive, but the lady I know who's English, and she's living over here, when she gives blood, she has to go up to Northern Ireland to do it. They don't accept it. If you lived in the UK, maybe because of all the BSc scare and all that kind of stuff, but if you say you lived in the UK, they'll say no, we don't want your blood.
Right, lie to them.
No, I don't want to do that. Listen, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's much appreciated. We'll reach that time. But before we finish up, Clive, give us all your details, websites, and everything that you want to tell people where they can contact you to find out more about yourself.
Well, each week I interview the most interesting person I can find on the health revolution. If you just put in The Health Revolution. Health Revolution alone will get you a million other ones, but The Health Revolution will find it on YouTube. And if you want to know the answers to health questions, watch that. The first episode we did was how to cure autism, and we've gone on from there. You mentioned ancientpurity.com, where all the supplements are, and there's masses of information. My business colleague has written an incredible load of free information. That's it, really.
Brilliant. Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, if anybody wants to go and look at the incredible list of people that we got speaking, they should need to go to newhumanitymovement.com. And there, as I say, there's a list of all the information that you need, speakers, hotels, exhibitors, etc., press releases, all of it's there. So newhumanitymovement.com.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, gentlemen, just stay with us there for a minute. We're going to go over to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
Thanks.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Okay, I do apologise. I just grabbed whatever song was kind of near me, and I do apologise for that song. I have no idea, but I actually when I lined it up there, I thought it was the Mary Wilson one. Is it Mary or Mary Wilson? And I think she done a version of that, and it was kind of a happy, dancey version. I don't know where. This is out of Alan's record collection. This is Alan's his top 10 records. So I have absolutely
hits of the 80s.
Hits it.
Oh
yeah,
no,
right.
actually, I want to change that. Sad hits of the 80s. Yeah. I don't know. Look. They did a test. Apparently, they got old age pensioners and put them in a room where it was something like 20 years previous. 20 years when they were 20 years younger. And he had TV shows 20 years ago, and the decoration was 20 years ago. And they actually did tests on their, I think it was their blood or their genes, and found that they were, the aging effect was reversing. So there is something got to do with listening to and being, in an era that's, maybe 10 or 20 years. They always say, how old are you? How old do you feel? Doesn't matter what age you think you are, how old do you feel you are. And I think that's important. If you say you're 10 years younger than what you are, then just go with that. Because it keeps you young, and obviously kids keep you young as well. But it just keeps you young, So don't let the age get to you. Don't let all these kind of...
I agree.
Yeah,
I
exactly,
concur.
yeah. Just be who you are and be as old as you want to be.
As my wife always says, I'm stuck in the 80s, and I'm happy about it. I don't mind.
Oh, I am, and I'm stuck in the 80s too. I am stuck in the 80s.
I must say, your mullet's looking well.
God, I had one of them. I did have one of them. I have photos, but they're well buried and well hidden. Okay, just catching up. Listen, just something that I said during the show, which I'd just like to say again to the listeners. And I'm not preaching in any way, but, you know, to wake people up to what's going on, ask yourself, what do you do? What do you do to wake people up? Do you talk to people? Do you tell people? Are you scared to say something because you don't have the confidence? You feel that they'll see you as a nutter or something like that. Part of, you know, being able to educate people out there is being confident in yourself and your own wisdom and the information that you show. And now, I did get a phone call off somebody during the week, and I won't mention the person's name. They know who they are. And they did kind of get attacked by one or two people. Not physically, just verbally. And I just kind of talked to him and said, well, look, you know, people are great at giving their opinion. They are brilliant at giving their opinion, but is their opinion backed up by any research or any information? If it's not, it's only an opinion. It doesn't mean they're right. So if you give people, you know, if people turn around and say, well, you're mad, and you say, well, okay, you've obviously researched this, so can you show me the research that you've done? Because if you think I'm mad, you must have researched it. And if they go, well, I've done no research, and say, well, then surely that's ignorance then. If you haven't even bothered looking at it and you're saying I'm mad and I've gone to the time and actually researched it. So, you know, you have to kind of grow a pair of cojones, you know, to be honest with you. And yeah, sometimes you are the one person out of the group of 30 that people might look at and go, well, he's a nutter, or he talks about, you know, strange things. But unfortunately, there's so many more people waking up these days. Ignorance is a choice. There's so much information out there now. Ignorance is a choice. So, you know, if you at least wake one person up during the week, or you give them information that will start the process, it won't be long before everybody's doing that, and that information is passed on, and then the whole global level of consciousness just wakes up to what's going on. And that's what we have to do, and that's our job. If you have a moral conscience like me and Steve, I think that's what we need to do. You know, and we need to keep doing it, and we'll be doing it, you know, and keep doing it, Steve, I think.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, you know, I mean, I know we call it waking people up, and it even says on the sticker that I'm awake. We may have to change it to educating people and just making them more conscious as to the real world around them, and not the one that they perceive to be real that they see on TV. But I mean, waking people up, yeah, just if you're going to wake someone up, just don't do it too early in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think Snowflake said that, you know, people in her job, it's hard to reach them. There are some people who you won't be able to wake up. But if you present them with the evidence, and you ask them for the evidence, you tell them something and they turn around and they think, oh, you're mad, you just say to them, don't preach to them, just ask them the question. Say, well, obviously you've done research into this to come to that conclusion. To come to your opinion, you've done research. So can you please give me the research you've done, and I'll have a look at it. And the chances are their argument falls flat on the ground, and they'll just look at you, because they make assumptions. So a lot of people make an assumption based on very little knowledge, and then they'll argue the point based on an assumption, and an assumption is just a lazy way making a guess of something without even doing the research. So if you are in work or you come across somebody and you have the evidence, say the dangers of Wi-Fi, and you have all the evidence there, you say to them, well, here's my evidence, where's your evidence? Because you obviously have an opinion, and if you have an opinion, show me the evidence it's based on. Because if you're giving me your opinion and you've no evidence, then that's just ignorance. You know, and that's where the argument falls down. So if you present the evidence, the argument doesn't stand. And that's the way you have to approach it. Give them the evidence.
No, I agree.
Oh,
okay.
We have a quick phone call. We've 5 minutes left. Hang on a minute. Good evening, caller. How are you doing? We've 5 minutes left.
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing? Who do we have and where are you?
I'm calling from the United States. I'm David Foreman for the New Humanity Movement event. I would like to go live if I could. Tony had me lined up, but he says you guys finished. Can you talk 10, 15 minutes online?
I'm afraid you only have 2 minutes, because we're finishing up now. We have to pass over to another radio show, I'm afraid. But
okay, no problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, well, sorry, we would have given him 10 or 15 minutes if he had 10 or 15 minutes, but that was Dave. He's obviously going to be on the New Humanity Movement. I'm sure you'll see him over there. Sorry, Dave, if you're listening, but we do have to pass over to another radio station at 9 o'clock. And talking about that, do we know who's on People's in the Internet Radio?
That's a good question.
Well, put it this way. Whoever's on, it's going to be good anyway, isn't it?
Not as good as we are.
No, no, there's no competition.
I mean, we kind of set the bar.
Exactly. We do. Yeah. We say which bar is that then? Yeah. Okay. Don't forget, everybody, that the T-shirts are now available, and if you want to support us, the bumper stickers are there, the T-shirts are there, and there's a donate option there as well. And if you can't afford, if you don't have any money, if there's any ads on the website that you like, click on the ads, and it just goes to helping OYM and what we do here. And much appreciated by. For people who do that. And I know, money's tight, but it's, everything helps. It really, really does. Everything does help. Now, next week's show, I'm just actually calling up here because I don't even have it written down.
You've next week's show done and all, have you?
No. I wish I did. No, next week's show, we have a Dr. Terry Wallace. Now, she recovered from multiple sclerosis using good food. Using food. And we've heard this time and time again from Dr. Lorraine Day and Bernadette Bowen about using food. And she recovered from this. And again, she's a medical doctor, or was a medical doctor. So that's going to be interesting to have Terry on and talking about that. So without further ado, we're going to pass over to People's Internet Radio. I'm sure the show is going to be very good. Thanks to everybody for your support. It's much appreciated. If there's any links that you have, any news, send it in to us and we'll get it out. Don't forget to register. You'll get access to information as well. Steve?
Yeah, and don't forget as well, as Alan said many weeks back, if you have a grievance or something you want to get off your chest, you're more than welcome to do a little 5-minute or a 3-minute, say, audio piece. If you can do it yourself, great. If not, give us a shout there and we can hook up with you via Skype and we can just record your say, a 3-minute segment. If you just want to get something off your chest, and we play that as well. And just to mention again, the seminar for the Public Banking Forum for Ireland, that's going to be on 27th of February at 2 p.m. in the Green Isle Hotel in Dublin. And Dr. Keidel, which is a German, Spark Assen Bank, and Christopher Simpson, they're going to be doing that seminar. And it's going to be, they say, join us and make public banking a reality in Ireland. And you can sign up for the seminar on Facebook or on republicirelandbank.com. That's republicirelandbank.com. So another date for your calendar.
And if you know anybody that has an unsigned band and you have demo songs you want playing, get them to send the music into us and we'll be happy to play it.
Yeah, so if you want to do a cover of It's My Party, you're more than welcome.
Okay, take care everybody. Have a good week. Stay safe and we'll see you next week. This is Alan James saying good night.
And this is Stephen George signing off as well. We'll do it again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Open your mind.